All right, everyone, welcome. We are continuing Interpersonal Effectiveness today. Going over German last week. We're going to get into fast and give. Remember that there are 3 core interpersonal effectiveness skills, and they are demand, give, and fast. You want to figure out what your priority is in the situation. Do you want to keep the relationship, which is give? Do you want to focus on your self-respect, which is fast? And do you want to meet an objective, which is dear man? Dear man is usually the most broadly used skill. Use it if you want your partner to do chores, if you want your boss to give you a raise, if you want a refund at the grocery store, whatever. So it kind of is across the board useful for everybody. Fast and give are more specific to your personality and whether you're too kind of rough and abrupt or whether you're too passive and kind of a pushover. You don't want to be a pushover. So fast will help you like stand up. Let's actually get into fast first. So fast is best for people who are people pleasers, scared of confrontation, tend to get walked all over, have a hard time saying no when they want to say no, or yes when they want to say yes, trouble asking for things. And it's really helpful if you tend to lie to get out of stuff. Not a good idea to lie to get out of stuff because then you just dig yourself into this really complicated hole. So if you have been asked to bake 4 dozen cookies for the bake sale and you say, oh, I'm out of sugar because you just don't want to, they're like, oh, well, here's some sugar. And then you're like, oh, also out of eggs. Like, oh, I got plenty of eggs for you. Oh, I can't come to the bake sale because my mom is here. Oh, we'll bring her too. You know, like you just have to do this incessant digging and digging and digging if you dig your way out of it. Another way to say is like, oh, thank you for the opportunity, but no, thank you. Thank you. And that can be really hard and scary. It's hard for me to stand up for myself to say no, no, thank you, just don't want to. I have an example of being on the asking end of that, where I was in charge of an eating disorder program at one point. And I emailed a bunch of other therapists and asked them, hey, do y'all want to be on this eating disorder program? Do you want to help treat these folks because they need more clinicians? And half of them said, oh, I would love to, but I have these and these responsibilities. Oh, that's so awesome. I wish I could, but I can't. And one person said, oh, thanks for the opportunity, but no, I don't want to do that. So those other 2 people, did they want to? And they really just couldn't at the time. Did they not want to? Do I ask them again? I don't know. Like the third person was like, oh, my goodness, you don't want to. That's no big deal. Cool. Like I'll ask elsewhere. But those first 2 that kind of like, maybe, maybe not, I have no idea whether they actually wanted to and they were just being nice, or if they actually didn't want to and they were just being nice, or if they legit wanted to and it just wasn't a good time. So honesty in a kind and gentle way is so much easier to deal with than complicated excuses and telling the kids. So a lot of times with highly sensitive people, or if you weren't raised to be assertive, or if you were raised that you need to make people happy at all times to be accepted, we either do this all or nothing. Like, yes, I'm going to do it completely the way that you asked, and probably more so, or I'm going to ghost you or ignore you or be mean about it, or, you know, like we don't, the problem in all of this, in this entire book, is to teach us how to be in the middle, how to balance and stay in the middle ground. If you're asking what the answer is probably the middle path. Rarely, rarely are we going to want to live in the extremes. The extremes are usually get us in trouble. It's easier to live in the extremes. It's easier to just completely ignore somebody or completely do everything they ask of you, but that's rarely the healthiest answer. So the middle path is very difficult to balance in, like that OC ball or whatever, right? Like it is hard to balance in the middle, but that's probably the healthiest path. So fast. Step one, be fair. This is like not being too extreme. So if your partner wants you to do all the dishes all the time, say, no, I'm never going to do a single dish. It's not fair to them. Or yes, I will always do every single dish in the house. Not fair to you. So you want to be fair to both yourself and the other person. Validate your own feelings and wishes as well as the other person's. Oh, I understand that that's an important thing for you. I would like to help with that. And I don't want to do all of it all the time. Oh, so like the bake sale thing, like I'm not going to be able to make 12 dozen cookies from scratch. No, thank you. I don't want to do that. But I will buy 4 dozen from the store. You know, be fair. And that the fast skill really lets you leave with your head held high. You know, that's about keeping your self-respect. So knowing that you didn't totally screw somebody else over, but you also didn't screw yourself over is what we want to end with this. It's backlighting. So after you've done a fast skill, you can say, I followed my values. I was honest. I stuck to the truth. I was fair to them and to me. They may not like it. I may not really like it completely, but I did the most honorable kind of thing in this. And I didn't sell myself out. I didn't sell myself short. I didn't lie about it. I didn't weasel out of it. I didn't totally get walked all over, but I also didn't bulldoze somebody else over. So be fair. So fast, fair. Don't apologize. FA. A is for apologies. No apologies. You don't have to tell somebody you're sorry because you're not going to bake 12 dozen cookies. Are you sorry for that? You don't need to be sorry for that. That's kind of unreasonable. No, I don't want to go to the party. No, thank you. You know, you can do it in a nice way. Oh, I appreciate the offer, but no, thank you. Not, oh, I'm so sorry. I wish I could. Ew, I feel terrible about this. Like, if you don't. You know, don't apologize for being alive. Don't apologize for making a request. Don't apologize for having an opinion or for disagreeing. Don't look ashamed. Don't have your head down and your eyes slumped. Don't invalidate something that is, or don't validate something that is totally, don't validate something that is invalid. You know, if the request is unreasonable, don't act like it's reasonable, you know? So Brene Brown has a great saying of don't wilt, don't shrink down, don't pop up like a pufferfish, don't wilt like a violet, just stand your sacred ground. You know, don't bulldoze and don't be bulldozed. Just stand tall and firm. You have a right to take up space. You have a right to say yes and no. You have a right to your opinions and your preferences. It is okay. And a lot of times, again, going back to our childhoods, we think that we're going to be totally rejected if we disagree with people. We think that we're going to get in trouble. We think that nobody will like us. We think all kinds of messed up stuff that may have been true in your childhood, but it's just not true anymore. And you're living these cycles on repeat that are not realistic anymore. Yes, it made sense back then. It does not make sense now. Okay. So be fair. Don't apologize and stick to your values. Don't sell your values or your integrity out. Be clear on what you believe is the moral and valued way of acting. Stick to your guns. Like, if you don't think that it is reasonable to have to pay all the money to throw the birthday party for your friends, stick to your guns. Like, that's a totally valid opinion. If that is what you think and believe, then hold firm to it. Don't let other people sway you in that realm. When it really comes to your morals and values, like, understand what they are going into it and then stick to them. And then finally, T is to be truthful. Like I was saying, don't lie, don't act helpless, don't exaggerate. People get into trouble with this too, of like, oh, will you bake the cookies for the bake sale? Like, oh no, I just can't even. I haven't been able to function and I'm so miserable and I can't even whatever. When it's not true, you just don't want to do it. Like, it's okay to just not want to do it. This is really meant to, I'm dating myself, but back in the 90s, what was that movie with Whoopi Goldberg and Sister Act, right? There's a part in there with this like sweet mousy little nun is trying to sing and they like push on her diaphragm and she like belts it out. That's what I think about this. Like, be strong, be bold, be brave. That's the fast skill, without being mean and rude and cruel. A lot of times people take and take and take and take, and they resent saying yes, and they don't want to do all the cookies, and they don't want to throw the birthday party, and they don't want to take on the assignment, and they don't want to do any of the stuff, but they said yes. And then they get mad about it and they get resentful about it. And then eventually all of this anger and resentment, and how could you have asked me that? You should have known that I didn't want to do it. And it boils over and breaks and the dam comes washing out and floods everything. And then it's inhibited emotions to unrelenting crisis over and over and over and over again. So don't say yes if you want to say no. It is actually unkind and unfair to other people to say yes when they're asking something of you and then be resentful about it. It's kind of on you. Like, once you have said yes, you should be okay with having said yes, right? Or maybe like say like, oh, next time please don't ask me in front of 50 people. Or, I would appreciate it if next time you would think about splitting the money more fairly. I said yes this time, but I really don't want to do that again in the future, which is into your man, right? But we have this tendency to just overdo and over accommodate and give. And then we get really hurt and offended when other people don't excessively do that too. When in reality, and this is a stark, unpleasant truth, I believe, the world just isn't like that. And maybe you should try to change the world. But like, if I spend $1,000 throwing a surprise party for an acquaintance, because I just love to give and I love to make people happy, and I know it would be such a surprise and it would be so sweet and they'd be so happy, and I do this way over extension of social norms, and then nobody ever throws me $1,000 surprise party, I'm hurt and offended. When in reality, it was abnormal for me to have gone above and beyond and done that. And probably you're also having some issues like asking for your needs to be met, because maybe you believe some of those myths about I shouldn't have to ask, I shouldn't tell people, why don't they just love me enough to do this on their own? Those are myths. We always show us that way. It's not that way. So I know a lot of people that do this, and I've done it myself too, of like going above and beyond the norms and then having really hurt feelings if those are not reciprocated. If you want it reciprocated, you have to tell, and you're actually the one that's doing above and beyond when nobody has asked you to throw $1,000 birthday party or bake, a 5-layer cake when like they just asked you to go get cupcakes, right? And it actually, like, these are such hard truths because I know these people just want to be sweet and want to like make people happy and just do above and beyond and be extra. But it honestly kind of puts the other person in a little bit of an awkward position. Like, imagine if you did have an acquaintance throw you this lavish $1,000 party. Thank you. Like, oh, this is sweet, but now am I supposed to do it back? Like, I don't like to throw parties. I don't know you that well. This is beyond the social norms, right? And if you want to get to a point in your relationships with other people, you have to slowly develop that $1,000 party level of friendship, right? So first, like, buy a $50 gift and see if they'll buy a $50 gift back for you. Throw a little party and see if they throw a little party back for you. Explain to them that this is the kind of friendship that you would like and appreciate. We throw these giant loaded darts, and I mean, maybe sometimes it will be reciprocated, but also, and I mean, I'm getting into like deep, like relationship things. I've noticed that the people who go above and beyond like that, they don't really like having friends that are also above and beyond like that. They don't usually get along very well. And so here you have this whole network of partners and friends and family that don't do that. And yet you're dying of thirst and starvation because they won't do it back to you. But there are other people that do that, and you don't really like them. So maybe that doesn't apply to you at all. If not, cool. You will rarely have to use the fast skill. And again, like, people who are, just number one awesome humans know how to do this kind of intuitively. They feel comfortable standing up for themselves. They are able to stand up for themselves in a way that's kind and not rude. They don't let resentments and hurt feelings and stuff like that build up. But it is a skill, and this is how you can learn the skill, is by going in this order. Okay. If you need to stand up for yourself, if you need to say no or yes. Hello, pepperoni. We have not gotten pepperoni's food for today, and as well as Sam Brown or Froyo, both cats, and they have been all over the place asking for food because they're pitiful. The food is coming, Betty. You're not gonna stop today. Okay. Be fair to yourself and others. Don't apologize for making a request or turning somebody down. Stick to your values and be truthful. And once you do this, it's really scary to do it, but once you do it over and over again, it will feel more and more comfortable. You'll have positive results, and then it will be a lot easier to do as you move forward. The dime game goes with this. I don't know how to do the dime game by myself because it actually is a game. So we'll come back to that. But we're on page 130. Okay, let's move on to give. The give skill is how to keep a relationship. Is how to strengthen a relationship, keep a relationship, mend a relationship. It is what you use if you and your teenage daughter are really, struggling and just butt heads all the time, and you're trying to like make amends and strengthen your relationship. It's if you blew all your money gambling and your partner is really upset with you and you're trying to fix that relationship. It is, if you're just any kind of relationship repair, you've been late to work 20 times and they're about to fire you, how you mend that with your boss. So the give skill is how to be, and it's also how to be a good therapist, which we all forget. And it is really hard to do. It is uncomfortable and hard to do because we are problem solvers as a human race. And it is uncomfortable to just sit with somebody without fixing stuff. But that's what's needed to be a good relationship partner. So step one, give. Gentle, interested, validating, and easy manner. So being gentle is not attacking, not threatening, not judging, not sneering. This is hard if you're mad at this person. If you've been having this really difficult relationship and your daughter is like, you know, telling you that she's mad because you grounded her. It's real easy to be like, well, you blah 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 blah, or like like all of these faces, like watch a face. Get gentle, kind, validating, interested, easy manner, right? So really about body posture, really about tone of voice, and this is such hard stuff if you're not used to it. Imagine like a big grizzly kind of biker dude holding like a sweet little tiny kid, right? Be super soft, and to lower your voice, and to kind of smile and like have a nice face. You got the resting face, like you need to like look in the mirror and like, breathe. You want to sit back, you know, tilt your head. All this stuff sounds like such cheeseball stuff, or just like, well, yeah, that's what you would do. But imagine the opposite of it. Like, again, going back to 1990s references, who's that guy that lived in a van down by a river? Chris Farley, like that intense football coach, kind of like staring with like scrunchy face and like roar, and like an intense voice, like, I love you. You're so awesome. Like, we're the best, you know, like, of course you should know that I love you. Having that kind of facial expression and tone of voice is very like off-putting, and it is not the stuff that will create bonds. Again, this is a really hard skill because maybe that's just the way your personality is kind of developed. Maybe you're an intense person. Maybe you have a deep voice. Maybe you have the resting face, right? And so you really have to like change these minute little aspects of yourself, but it will give back a ton. Things that are helpful, especially like if you have a teenager or a partner who you're trying to have like a difficult conversation with, if you go for a drive, so that you're sitting and not, what you don't want is this like direct one-to-one kind of face-to-face interaction. It's very intimidating. It's very scary. It really gets your animalistic like instincts kind of hyper aroused in a fight or flight kind of manner. And so I wish you could see my whole body, but like turning, just like turning like this and tilting your head like this, and not in like a sarcastic way. Like obviously they're gonna be like, what are you doing? But just really think about like how to make your body less intimidating, less threatening, less of this one-to-one kind of dynamic. That's the gentleness, and that's also the easy manner part. So fighting every urge within you to smirk, to eye roll, to it is telling you, knock that off. Like if you're actually trying to salvage the relationship instead of just being right, instead of just like doing whatever feels good in the moment, because it feels good. Like you're annoyed with them, you want to do all of this expressions. Just check your face. Give. Gentle, interested. And let me back up a little bit. In a typical like male-female relationship, men generally need the most work on this. And you know, if you tell like your boyfriend like, oh, I had a really hard day today, he's like, tell me about it. What happened? What's up? Like, you know, bless you, but that's not super Warm and fuzzy. Give is the warm and fuzzy skill. This is teaching you how to be warm and fuzzy. So step 2 is to act interested. This isn't necessarily in order. This is just all components that you need to wrap around the whole thing. Whereas Dear Man is definitely in order. Acting interested is not like, oh yeah, like you had, this is my phone. Oh, yeah, that sucks. You had a hard day. Not interested. Stop what you're doing. Stop looking on the phone. Turn the TV off. At least mute it. It's like, give somebody your whole undivided attention. Man, this is hard with kids too, because you're like, mommy, I need to tell you about the turtle that I saw that had a crack on the bottom of its blah, 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 like a 4-hour story about something that you really are not very interested in. If you're trying to strengthen and develop a relationship, you need to like make eye contact and then have all of the little nonverbals. Again, what a good therapist does. Oh, yeah. You know, like you respond in their story appropriately, right? If they say like it had a crack in its shell, oh goodness, was it hurt? You know, like instead of just like, or you know, like just pay attention, be interested, and show on your face. This is also hard for those resting bee faces or people that are just very stoic, right? You need to have an expressive face. Be Jim Carrey. Listen if you're interested. Face the person in a non-threatening way, but like look at them. Make eye contact. Lean in. Make all the nonverbals, the ums and ohs. Don't interrupt. It's kind of hard not to, right? Especially if you need to clarify, if you're trying to like make sure that they know that you're interested, if you're whatever, if you're asking clarifying questions or whatever, or saying like, we'll get into this in a minute, but showing equality, showing that you two know what it's like to break your leg. That is fine-ish on a low level to interrupt and to put in comments and questions. If you end it with a question, do not hijack their story, and don't leave it on like a hanging kind of Chad situation of, okay, do I go on with my story? Like, you want to know the rest of it for that person? Are we talking about you now? Like, it's a very awkward thing to be like, oh yeah, I broke my leg one time too. Cool. Like, am I supposed to finish the story about how I broke my leg, or what do you know? So you say, oh yeah, I broke my leg too. It really hurt. How bad has yours been hurting? You know, what happened next? Like, just whatever it takes to just throw it back. Please tell me more. Tell me the rest of it. You know, just let them know that, yes, you have paused. And I also say pause a lot. Like, let me pause you there for a second. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, now finish. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but that, I had to say that. Finish. Tell me what you have to say about it. So it's okay to interrupt if you wrap it up with a question and throw it back to them and throw them the ball, and you don't just hijack the story. It is a very frustrating, uncomfortable feeling when people hijack. And they usually don't mean to, you know, they're just trying to like show equality and understand, and oh, I get it. They're trying to be validating, but you just really have to like throw it back to them. Okay, validate. On page 129, there's a whole, all 6 levels of validation, and then randomly on, what is that? Or no, maybe it's way deeper into, yeah. There's a whole chapter kind of on it on 155. So 129 has the list of 6 levels of validation, but then they really get into the depth of it on 155, which look at all of them. we'll get into how to validate in a minute. But just validate with words and actions, show that you understand their feelings, their thoughts, how it makes sense. You see it from their perspective. Oh, I get that this is hard. I see that this is whatever. I understand that you are whatever. It totally makes sense. That's all validating. And then finally, use an easy manner. This kind of goes back to the gentleness, but it's also like more specifically the body language and like the angle and being soft and using humor. And, you know, again, if you're thinking about like this tense reunion with your brother and you have like weird political differences of opinion, you'll be like, hey, dude, how's the news? Or, you know, like silly, soft, lighthearted, take the intensity out of it. Take the, and again, like that's why we don't want to have this like, hey, brother, you don't want this intense rawr kind of thing because it will just like freak people out and put their quills up, and it's just, oh, we're wanting to undercut that. So like soft, light, plastic, fluid, facial expressions, lighthearted, joke, be a little bit silly, and it just deflates the balloon, right? Make some jokes, soften it up, fix your face, be really interested, really look at them, really pay attention to them, be very validating. And if you're able to do all that, much more likely that you can bond, that you can connect, that you can repair, you can patch things up. And then also reciprocate when they do that for you, right? Like this is called BIDS and Gottman therapy, which is couples therapy, but it also works in any kind of couple, two-person dynamic. If they throw you a line, like don't just be like and walk away, right? Like if they reach out to hold your hand, then hold their hand. If you're trying to repair the relationship, if they say like, oh, how was your day at work? Don't just say fine, right? That's a bid. That is a olive branch. That is a, hey, I'm trying to connect and bond with you. Don't let that line just fall flat and them have to reel it back in awkwardly. Take it, pass it back, take it, pass it back. Okay. Validation. So, I'm actually going to bump over to the dime game because validation may take more time than we have today. So we've gone over the fast skill, the dime game goes with it. We've gone over the give skill, the whole validation section goes with it. I'm just going to talk about the dime game. In actual groups back in 1997 when the world was normal, this was one of the most loved and hated skills. Some people were like, that's stupid, I don't get it. Well, why do you even bother? Some people were like, oh my God, that changed my life forever. So take it or leave it. In real life, real person, you take 10 dimes, 10 pennies, or 10 pieces of paper. And one person is the bank, and they have the money. You have a situation where you want to ask for something, or you have a situation where you want to say no to something. So you want to ask your boss for a raise. And again, bless her, this is spread throughout the book. So we're looking at page 131, but we're also looking at the clearest part is on page 176. And then there's one more sheet for it. I'll write a sheet for it in like the homework. Write it down. So what we're going to look at is page 176. All right. So you want to ask for a raise. You have 10 dimes. You put a dime in the bank every time you get a yes answer. A bank or a pot or a cup, whatever. The more money that you have in the bank, the stronger you ask. So let's go through it. I want to ask my boss for a raise. Is this person able to give me what I want? Yes. Down in the bank. Is getting my objective more important than my relationship with this person? Yeah, probably. Will asking help me feel confident and self-respecting? Yes. Is the person required by law or moral code to do or give me what I want? Yeah, not really. You know, this would be like asking your parents for food. Moral code and the law says they have to give you food. This would be like asking somebody to return your stuff. They have to do that. But asking for a raise, yeah, they don't have to. So that would be a no. So we've gone through 4 questions, but I only have 30 cents. Am I responsible for telling the person what to do? No. 5 questions, 30 cents. Is what I want appropriate for this relation? Is it right to ask what I want? Yes. 40 cents. Is asking important to a long-term goal? Yes. Do I get as much as I get with this person? That's questionable, but we're going to assume yes. Do I know what I want and have the facts I need to support my requests? Assuming that you've done your research and you figured out what a raise makes sense and whatever, yes. Is this a good time to ask? Is the person in the right mood? We're going to assume that this is the best time we're out at lunch together. Yes. So we have 80 cents out of $1. So then you go down to your key, and 80 cents says ask firmly and resist no. So if you had no money, it's like they're not able to give it to you. My objective's not as important as my relationship. It won't make me feel confident. They're not required. I'm not responsible. If you said no on all of them, don't ask and don't hint. If you got 20 cents, hints, kind of indirectly just slip it in there that you would like a raise, but take no. 30 cents, hint openly. 40 cents is like, would you mind? Would this be okay? Ask tentatively. Take no for an answer. Ask gracefully. Take no. Ask confidently if you have 60 cents, but take no. 70 cents, ask confidently and resist no. Like, no, really, for realsies, please give me a raise. Ask firmly, insist, negotiate, keep trying. And if you have 100, if every one of those is checked off, then really just don't take no for an answer. So the point of all of this is to give you the confidence, what up, bud? And kind of like reassure yourself that no, like I actually have the right to really ask for this. I've gone through, I've checked these things. There's the capability, the priorities, the self-respect, I have the right, I have the authority. Like I should ask hard for this request. Then on the other hand, if you want to say no to something, so baking 12 dozen cookies for the bake sale. I want to say no, but do I really have like the reasoning behind it? Like, is it justified? Is it legitimate when most people say no? Can I give a person what is wanted? I could give them 12 dozen cookies. Excuse me. Is my relationship more important? This is season from the bake sale committee. Like, I really don't care about season. So that is no. So in this case, you put, if you're asking a no question, you put a diamond if the answer is no. So can I give the person what I was wanted? Yes, I can. Is my relationship more important than saying no? No, it's not. Will saying no make me feel bad about myself? Nope. Am I required by law or moral code to do this? Nope. Is the other person responsible for telling me what to do? Nope. Who's Susan? She's trying to tell me what to do. Is what the other person is requesting of me appropriate to my relationship with that person? 12 dozen cookies is too much. In the long term, will I regret saying no? Nope. Do I owe this person a favor? I mean, did she just bake you 12 dozen cookies for your baby shower? Like maybe it is appropriate. Maybe it does make sense. Maybe the answers are yes. So we'll assume that no, she hasn't done jack for me. Nope. Do I know what I'm saying no to? Is the other person clear about what is being asked for? Like, did she just insinuate that it was 12 or did she for real do that after 12? So, yeah. Should I wait a while before saying no? Say firmly, resist, negotiate. I mean, the only thing is that I do have the capacity to bake 12 dozen cookies. But if I didn't even have the capacity for that, that would be like 10 no's, and just straight up don't do it. You know, you've really gone through and checked, like, I can't do it. I don't have the time. I don't have the supplies. This is not appropriate. It's not gonna make me feel bad about myself. She doesn't do anything for me. You know, like, it's just a very like structured format to decide, like, that doesn't actually make sense. I ain't baking those cookies. Or you may get in there and be like, oh crap, I forgot. Like, she's actually done a lot for me, and I really do kind of owe her a favor. And I am gonna feel bad because these cookies are for like orphans. I could do it, and I'm actually the only one that has eggs in a tri-state area. You know, like, whatever the thing is, like, it will help you just give reasoning and like objective, just a foot to stand on. It'll help you be confident in your decisions. Okay, so this is that one. Great. We just got through it. So it is on page, whatever I just said, 176, but it's also on page 132. And it explains more about the capacity, the priorities, the self-respect, the right to authority, the relationship, long-term, short-term goals. Is there give and take? Have you done your homework? And it's the timing. So these are the 10 things that you should just really kind of look into if you're trying to say no to something, or you're trying to say ask for something. If you've checked off all of these, then you can feel pretty confident that you know what you're doing. And then interestingly too, on that 176 homework, it's not really homework, kind of it is. There is a adjusted plus or minus for wise mind. If you get through all of it and it says whatever, and you're like, I really want it to say more, adjust it for more. You know, like, if you've got a gut feeling of not wanting to do it, but you really don't have a lot to fall on, the wise mind piece is that gut feeling. And it also tells you like what you want, right? And so if you get through all of this and you're bummed out by the response or the answer, that may tell you something that you actually do really want to do it, or like you really don't want to do it. And so you can adjust based on your own subjective choices. It's okay to say no, even if it doesn't make sense to say no. That goes back to the fast skill, right? Like, stand up for yourself. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. All right, kids. We will get into validation next time, and then we'll get into how to find relationships. Actually, a skill. It can be really tricky to meet people, especially if you're grown. Whew, it is hard. It is a misconception that we are all living lives like the TV show Friends. Like, that ain't real. It is hard to meet people. It is hard to maintain relationships. It is hard to keep friendships. People grow apart and they move away and they change, and their political and religious and social beliefs change. And it is a constant moving apart and coming together. And you have to search to find those people. So we'll talk about that next time. Thanks for showing up.